In this clip, Max and Rachel talk about selling their home with Define Real Estate.
Tell me a little bit about what prompted the move, the thoughts to even move. You know, where did that all come from?
Yeah.
You want to go? I can go. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. So we lived in Claremont, which is the home that you sold for us, right? And I think our biggest thing was, we needed a little bit more space. We wanted to buy a home that was a little bit newer, and we just could not pull that off at like our budget and price point in or around San Diego or Southern California in general. And I think, once we started looking at home prices and what we could sell potentially our home for, it just became more and more clear that like, if we wanted to ultimately get what we wanted, which was a newer house, a bigger house, the only way to go would be to basically move outside of San Diego. And obviously that was a tough decision because, my mom lived 5 minutes away from us and we loved the location, right? We were in Claremont, centrally located, 5 minutes from my mom, 10 minutes from the beach,
Super convenient across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Super convenient across the board, centrally located. We were on the inside corner of Balboa, Genesee, so right by all the freeways, easy access to everything and to get to anywhere quick, which was tough to leave. But like at the same time too, our house was built in 1959 and it was old. Like I said, we wanted to upgrade. And once we were kind of starting to look at everything and weigh everything out, it just became more and more clear that I think we ultimately needed to move outside of San Diego to get what we wanted. And I would say we did. Mm-hmm. We for sure got what we wanted. We're super happy we're outside Austin, Texas, in a little town called Dripping Springs. So we're like 25 minutes outside of Austin. So it's kind of like a rural feel out here. We're not close to the big city, but we've got like farm town vibes and great area to raise our kids. And the move ended up, at the end of the day, I would say checking all the boxes for sure.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like because we were having the conversation, you're like, okay, we want the Alpine or the Poway feel scripts.
Yeah.
But the pricing was just crazy.
Well, not only that though, too, it's like, we wanted the scripts Poway feel, but like
new construction.
The new construction, but even if we were going to move out to Poway or Scripps, it's like, okay, we would have assumed we would have bought out there. Okay, so we're buying probably a $2 or $3 million home. Interest rates from mortgage was kind of, and still is slightly out of control, right? But then we would be buying a home that was probably still built in the 80s or the 90s that would need a remodel anyways. So we were looking at that and we're just like, that's just not going to work. That's still not going to work for what we wanted. And so that's what I think moved us out.
Something I wanted to add to that though too is props to you, Daniel, was something that was so cool at the beginning of all of this going on is you came over and sat down with us and like you went through like, okay, what are we looking for? And then you said like, okay, there's a lot of different routes we can go. Here's like A, we're looking in San Diego, northeast. B was like his mom, we were considering even like kind of selling both our homes and like going in with her on something bigger. You really talked us through all those like different options. And that was like really, really helpful. And just because we were all over the place, when you and I first met with you, we were like, okay. And a piece you didn't mention too is we had lived in Texas prior to this move for a couple years, like right after college. So we had always kind of dabbled with the idea of like, we loved Texas, like the vibe and the people and the small town feel. And it has a lot of things that we wanted for our children. And so that was always like in the back of our minds a little bit, although we didn't really think we would like take the big plunge in moving that far away.
Yeah.
But it was always in the back of our mind. But then when we really started digging into the details of like, okay, here are the options that we have available to us, like let's kind of prioritize. And you were super, super helpful throughout that whole process.